The headlines: Combermere closes for the day after strong order returns. The BLP was drafting a Republic Constitution, lawyer says, prompting sneers. And the West Indies focus on fielding ahead of the T20 World Cup. Welcome to Nation News for Wednesday, March the 2nd, 2016. Thanks for joining us. First, we can report on a vehicle accident at Clifton Hall, St. John. Dave Cook of Newcastle, also in St. John, was injured when he lost control of the van he was driving and plunged more than 30 feet into a ravine. He was able to exit the vehicle on his own, but was later taken to hospital by ambulance, complaining of pains about the body. The unpleasant smell that forced the closure of Combermere School last year has returned, apparently, with a similar result. Shortly after morning assembly, students and staff complained of a pungent odor that ended school there and then for the day. Principal Vera Palace and officials of the Ministries of Education and Health visited an area near Bellevue Plantation, which was believed to be the source of the smell. Mr. Palace said the odor was coming from flowering acacia trees, which were being crushed due to ongoing work. The hope is that this closure is for one day only, unlike the prolonged shutdown that occurred last year. The revelation of a new constitution for Republican Barbados was being drafted by the former Barbados Labour Party administration caused a bit of a stir at a public forum on Tuesday night. Queen's Counsel Harold Gollop said he and 3 legal scholars had been engaged by the Owen Arthur administration to do the rewrite. Mr. Gollop was a member of the panel at the Ellerslie School debating whether Barbados should become a republic. His revelation drew a rebuke from politics lecturer at CAFIL, Cynthia Barrow-Giles, who said such exercises should not be conducted in secrecy. However, Mr. Gollop argued that the small group represented what was the general thinking in society at the time and was not part of any covert operation.
Every single Barbadian at the period knew that there was a discussion and there was the intention of the present government to adopt a Republican status form of government. As I recall, the one bugbear in that whole exercise stemmed from the question which the policymakers thought was the question to be put in the form of a referendum. But I can't agree that there was any veil of secrecy in the whole exercise.
On the Republic issue itself, Mrs. Barrow-Giles said a change of constitutional status on its own will not help to make Barbados a modern democracy.
Because I think there are a number of things in Barbados that requires modernization, and those things perhaps, some of them are more important. Some of them will in fact fundamentally, I think, policy making in Barbados more so than the change to Republican status, and for that reason I think we should tonight put them squarely on the table. Too often we don't do so, so what I'm arguing in a nutshell is that efforts to impose republicanism, especially in relation to the minimalist type on a Barbadian constitutional political arrangement, will not in fact enhance democratic governance in the country. So that we need to focus on more than just transforming Barbados into a republic. We need to focus on all of the structures and institutions that are not functioning well, which in fact can lead to problems on the line. Thank you.
A senior tourism executive is predicting that arrivals by air and sea will rise again this year. CEO of the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association, Sue Springer, said more than 800,000 cruise passengers are expected. Addressing a meeting of the association at Hilton, Barbados, she said the successful berth expansion at the Bridgetown port had attracted bigger cruise ships and contributed to the growth of air-sea home porting business by 10%. Ms. Springer said increased airlift was also expected.
People can't walk here, they can't run here, they can't drive here. It is all to do with the airlift. And the airlift continues to be an amazing story. JetBlue will bring a new flight out of Fort Lauderdale in April, providing over 37,000 seats through the year. Air Canada added additional seats with the addition of the Rouge service from January because they've utilized a higher capacity aircraft. Thomas Cook again is offering 3 flights per week from Manchester for the winter. However, there are concerns, and I met with the Thomas Cook people, about some of the rates that hotels are charging that have increased considerably, but they have not necessarily done anything to their product. And so they're concerned about obviously dealing with the back end of the plane. In Germany, we are very happy to hear that there will be an additional airlift out of Munich. And of course, this is a city that definitely has the sort of demographic that will certainly fit with Barbados.
Sue Sprayer cautioned, however, that there are global events which could hurt arrivals this year, including the fallen Canadian dollar and pound sterling, the referendum on the European Union in the UK, the Olympics in Brazil, and the US presidential elections. Those cruise numbers in that story will now be a few thousand less. A cruise liner that was due to call at the Bridgetown port this week has cut short its Caribbean trip and returned to port in New Jersey early to avoid rough seas. Royal Caribbean's Anthem of the Seas had been scheduled to return from the cruise on Friday. However, a spokeswoman said planned stops in Barbados and St. Kitts were cancelled so the ship could avoid predicted strong winds and rough seas. The company says the captain was following a new storm avoidance policy that was instituted after the ship was damaged last month when 4,500 passengers hunkered down for hours because of 30-foot waves and hurricane-force winds. Some passengers were also hit by a vomiting bug on this trip. A visiting Jamaica preacher wants Caribbean nations to hold firm to the opposition to same-sex unions despite pressure from what he called outside forces. During a public lecture on Tuesday night, Pastor Calvin Brown said churches could toughen resistance to gay rights by reforming some of their programs to target the next generation of young people.
I am not worried that the Caribbean is vulnerable to that. Even with the thinking that because our economies are so dependent, I'm not worried. I'm not worried. You know why I'm not worried? Because the Caribbean church still has the capacity to raise up a new generation in a way that no other region of the world has. God is still celebrating our schools. We still have the ability to bring up our children in the fear and nurture of God.
In sport, after 2 comprehensive victories over Zimbabwe, the West Indies squad for the World T20 will be placing more emphasis on fielding. Coach Phil Simmons says he wants opposing teams to fear West Indies fielders. They will use 2 matches against English side Warwickshire to ramp up this aspect.
Every game we're just looking to turn things up a little bit more. Add 1% every game, and there's few things we didn't do well. I think we still need to make sure that we in the field, that we getting to the ball and we hitting stumps and things like that. We dropped a few catches again today, so I know the lights here are not the best, but we've got to make sure that we're doing everything right by the time we leave here. So the 2 warm-up games in India are just to sharpen up for the tournament. So I think Warwickshire is for us to get a little bit sharper and a little bit sharper in the 2 games.
The Kentucky-based Horse Racing Radio Network will broadcast the Sandy Lane Gold Cup live from Barbados in a sign of the growing international status of the race. Saturday's race has attracted 4 horses which have campaigned on the U.S. racing circuit. In defending champion Sailors Creek, Watch Your Own Bobber, War Envoy and Dorset. Coverage begins at 4 o'clock Barbados time. It will be aired throughout North America on Sirius XM satellite radio with worldwide streaming provided on the network's website, horseracingradio.net. And finally, a KFC restaurant in England is banning customers under the age of 18 after a McDonald's did the same a week before. People under the age of 18 will no longer be able to enter the fast food locations in the Mere Park area of Stoke-on-Trent in the English Midlands after a fight between a group of teens in February, though they can still use the takeaway service. According to BBC Newsbeat, the bans were in response to a fight at a McDonald's involving 20 teenagers and gunshots. Reports have also said that large groups of young people would buy 1 soda in order to make use of the restaurant's free Wi-Fi. Police encouraged the owners to hire a bouncer to keep customers under control at a restaurant. And that's Nation News for Wednesday. For more news, log on to nationnews.com and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And remember to pick up your Daily Nation on Thursday or subscribe to our e-paper.